Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of the Team Deakins Podcast, a collection of informal conversations between Roger and James Deakins and a guest. We never know where the conversation will take us, so listen in and see where it goes. This episode is sponsored by Aperture and its new Storm XT52, the industry's most powerful LED point source light. Brighter than a 6K HMI and powered by Aperture's revolutionary Blair light engine, the Storm XT52 is both a tunable white light and also the brightest ever adjustable color LED. Storm XT52, unrivaled output, only from Aperture. Today we're speaking with the cinematographer. His credits include The Constant Gardener, Blindness, and The Two Popes. We're pleased to welcome César Charlone.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you for doing this.
You asked me to send you some pictures, and I just did now. And one of the pictures that I shared, it's one that I am with Roger. That to me was a great honor to meet one of my heroes.
Oh my God, stop right there.
Okay, I stopped.
That's great.
Thank you, César. Thank you for saying that. Well, vice versa.
So we'll start with our normal question, which is, how did you get to where you are today? Is this something that you knew as a child you wanted to do, or did you go down another road and then find it?
I read you studied to be a vet.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
that's different.
Yes.
Kind of different.
Yes. I come from Uruguay. That is a very small country.
Yeah.
No means of when I was young having a film industry. Uruguay was very well known in the continent for very good critics. We were good consumers of cinema, but far away from producing because it was very expensive and complicated at that time. So I had the hobby of photography. I used to take a lot of pictures, and my grandmother had given me a room in her basement where I put up a lab, and I would spend nights developing, and I enjoyed that very much. But that to me was a hobby. I could never think of that as a profession. So, as every colleague, I chose a career, and since Uruguay is a very country, we produce meat and farm stuff. I chose to be a veterinarian because I think, okay, that'll give me some money and I will make. But I didn't have a vocation for that. My love was for taking pictures and that. But I never thought that could be a profession. So at a certain point, I interrupted my studies and I went to Brazil as a hippie hitchhiking, 1976, hippie time. So going around in Brazil, in one of the my routine was I would arrive with my backpack at the central plaza, and there would be hippies smoking and playing music and so on. So I would get close to them and said, "Hey, I'm Uruguayan. You know where I can stay?" And they would invite me to. And in one of these places that I arrived, I stayed in a house with lots of students there that were studying in Belo Horizonte, close to the capital of Minas Gerais, that is one of the states in Brazil. And there was this Japanese guy that had a lab, and he allowed me to develop all the pictures that I had been taking at the moment, and we get very close. And he was a photographer, and he was studying cinema. What do you mean studying cinema? Yeah, there's a cinema school. So he took me to the cinema school, and obviously I fell in love with, studying cinema. This is great. So the director of the school invited me to do a summer course there, an intensive summer course. So I went there for 3 months, and I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, definitely. So this friend of mine, he told me, well, the school in São Paulo is better than this one in Belo Horizonte. So I went to São Paulo, and I met the director of the school that was a Jesuit. And, in that time, we were all fans of Buñuel and stuff. So I told him, can I come and study here? Yeah, of course. So I went back to Brazil and I told my parents, listen, I'm sorry, but no veterinary for me. I'm going to study cinema. But my father, that was a theater director, understood that perfectly and he supported me. So I moved to Brazil. And one thing that is important is at the time, I was very committed. I'm still politically. We live in the most unequal continent in the world, where the poorness is so big and the richness is high, and the social difference and the injustice is terrible. So I had seen some films that kind of showed that in a way, and I wanted to do of my work something political. In the picture that I used to take, I was always showing poverty and stuff like that. So I said, I want to do this type of cinema. So I saw a film actually of Pino Solanas, an Argentinian director, that is called La Hora de los Hornos, the hour of the furnaces or something like that, that shows the unfairness of capitalism in our world, how it helps the rich to be more rich and the poor to be more poor. So I said, this is a cinema that I want to do. So I committed to do this type of cinema, and I always have had kind of a double life, doing regular films and commercials, and with that earning money, and parallel to that, using that money to do these political films. So that's what and in my career, I have chosen films that in a certain way have something to do with this. I don't enjoy very much doing a typical entertainment film. I want the film to bring something to the audience that shows, and especially if it's related to South America or something like that. So that's how I started my career in Brazil. As I said, with two lives: the life of the guy doing commercials that earned money and that used this money to produce political documentaries. And I was doing this double life for some time. But, I was in love with cinema. I wanted to do film. So film started happening and better. And I was okay doing until Fernando Meirelles. I will tell you this story because it's very interesting. Fernando is an architect. The director with whom I have worked for all these years. Fernando is an architect. And he was an architect in University of Architecture with other four architect students. It was the time when the Umatic cameras came out, and it was reasonable to buy. So they bought a Umatic camera and started doing kind of architectural documentaries, just to show the architecture. But then they started enjoying this thing of filming and started to get buzz. And they became kind of popular because they had this disrespectful way of, saying things and so and so. And they started being hired to do commercials in Umatic. And then we had a president that was very right wing, and he cut all the subsidies for cinema. So the cinema company started bankrupting and losing. So the agencies needed somebody to do their commercials. So they started hiring these guys, these architects, to do commercials. And they were doing the commercials in Umatic until an agency said, no, listen, Umatic doesn't look that good on television. We need you to do on film. So Fernando went into the film industry and find out who were the cinematographers that were working. And he hired one, he hired another one, he hired me, and we did a commercial, and we got along so well. It was such a nice symphony that he called me other time. And this was 40 years ago. And we've been, and Fernando is living upside me now, and we're doing this film together here.
You're working together now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. You've had a great relationship. Well, what makes it work so well? I mean, how do you work together?
I know what he wants. I always tell this funny story that once when we were doing City of God, Walter Salles, the director of these films that have come out, was a producer, and he knew me, and he went on set
Oh.
and spent the whole day there in the set. And then when he was there, when after dinner, he left, and he came up to me and says, "Cesar, is everything okay with you and Fernando?" I said, "Yeah, why?" "Oh, because I didn't see you talk in the whole day." And,
Yeah.
and I said,
Yeah.
"I don't need to. I know what he wants. I just do it."
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. That's nice.
we have become very. I know what we do a long pre-production. We read the script
You do.
very many times, word by word. So in that pre-production, I grab what he wants, and I know where he wants to go, and I just do my best to take it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you shot list and storyboard during prep? Because I
Yeah.
would think City of God seems so
Well, what happened?
almost spontaneous.
What happened on City of God? I say the City of God was a very lucky film because Fernando took some very radical decisions. He decided to work with 80% of the cast was non-actors. And he hired a lady to do a training of that. And he settled in Rio de Janeiro. He's from Sao Paulo, 400 kilometers away. So he moved to Rio de Janeiro and started working on preparing. And it was difficult because these kids, came from the favela. They had no idea what cinema was, whatever. But they were preparing. And Fernando is invited by a big national television Globo, to do a short episode for a series that they had that is, it's different episodes, everyone. It's about Brazilian people. So Fernando said, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm so committed with this thing. And the guy from the television did, but don't you want to maybe do something that is related to that so you can train and find out? Oh, maybe. So he sat down with the script writer of City of God, and they got they got a chapter of the book that where the script came from, and they did a 1 hour episode, adapted it, and that episode was a training for us in everything. Like, for example, it was the first time that I was shooting a film that was to be shot on film and finished it in digital, because I was doing commercials very much, and I had got accustomed to the power of color correcting. And remember I told you how dependent on developing on my grandmother's house. I'm very I rely very much on post production. I I try to capture a decent image when I capture it, but then I work on it in post production, shadows and windows and stuff. I do a lot of that in post because I don't want to take energy out of the set. So I know this I can fix in post, this I can fix in post, and I do it a lot in post. And I work in post production before I start the film. So I choose a colorist before I start filming. So now for the moment I'm working with Nat Jenks here at Postworks. We've been working for a month together, and we're going to start filming next week. So, but I'm doing tests and tests and finding out. In this case, in this short film that we did before City of God, I I was testing this process that was going from negative to digital through the telecine and using the tools of color correcting. And it was the first time that it was done, I think, in the world or something like that. So I was very scared. So with this episode, I managed, and it was great that before shooting City of God, I took Fernando to a cinema, and we projected the picture that had come out of this digital. We went from negative to digital and digital back to film. So we projected it, and it worked. And I remember I was very scared. And when the lights go on in the cinema was empty, was four of us sitting just in some chairs of the cinema. I looked in Fernando, and Fernando said,
Thumbs up.
ah, that was great. So we shot digital and went to, sorry, we shot negative and went to digital to color correct, and that helped me a lot to give the look of that film.
And
Right.
also, when you're working with non-professionals, it's different, right? Because in a way, you one have to explain more, and you're the person that's closest to them oftentimes during a shot, so you need to do a lot of extra work
Uh,
to make them comfortable,
Exactly.
right?
And that is something that happened in that episode. We went with those kids and we started realizing, I said, Fernando, we can't give these kids marks on the floor with tape because it's not natural for them. Walk to that light, walk to that point because that's the ideal light. No, I'm sorry. And since I have a long career in documentary, I said, Fernando, let's shoot this as a documentary. Let them come in, do what they do, and I'll follow them. And we did exactly that. They came in and I followed them. And in a certain moment, I would grab the microphone guy because he didn't know we hadn't rehearsed it. So then we redo that piece again. I would do an insert of that or whatever, and we corrected. So that became our way of shooting. That is very close to documentary. We shoot in a kind of a very documentary style. Fernando sets up the scene, and I go around and show him, it's good from here, and I start giving him different options, and that's how we work.
And it allows for things to change in the process
Yes,
because you know how a story sort of develops, but then you also have to keep track that you have a story. Because if you're going off on so many different directions, at
yeah,
the end you go, wait, what is this really about?
yeah, but
How did you do
that
that?
we have read it so much, and we know so well where we want to get that it's kind of. I always joke that operating camera is like playing saxophone. You have a script, but it's like jazz. You just get felt. So I know the script, but I know that, for
Yeah.
example, that gesture that the guy does with his hand will enhance what he's feeling. So I'll go to his hand, and that wasn't planned. And this documentary style. So to me, operating camera is fundamental. I make it a point because there's where I think I find my photography.
So were you shooting City of God with just a single camera? Was it just you, or did you have other cameras working?
In City of God, just one camera, me, yeah.
Just one
Yeah,
camera,
yeah.
Wow.
So you would shoot a scene. I mean, it's much like I did with Sam on Jarhead, I suppose. You'd shoot a scene as if you were recording a documentary, and then you would judge what you had, and you'd do another take and maybe change the angle or adjust, and then shoot inserts and just create it like that, build it as you went along.
Exactly,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. It's a very exciting way of working,
is.
but
Yeah.
it's something that
Keeps
not
you
a lot of directors would want to do.
No, we
Let alone cinematographers,
yeah,
but yeah.
we had a joke that we said our system of filming was we would film, then rehearse, and then film again.
Yeah.
Because the kids came in to the set with
Yeah.
such an energy
Yeah.
and such a power
Yeah.
that I didn't want to miss that. So I would go around and maybe I wouldn't get this one so well and get that. Okay, let's repeat this, let's repeat that. And we had the advantage that we had video assist, so we could see, this we missed.
Right.
Oh, here you see the microphone. Oh, here it's out of focus. So we would repeat and do some inserts to correct that.
It's also sort of so true with some actors, some very experienced actors, that you do a rehearsal and you never see that performance again. And you think, well, why the hell didn't we shoot that? Because, it's just that sort of that kind of fresh, kind of instinctive reaction an actor has to the first setup,
Yeah.
the first rehearsal. Sometimes, how many times have you seen a director and they just rehearse and rehearse and rehearse till they get exactly right, and then when we shoot, you never get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing that happened from that is, in order to be documentary style, I would try to do a lighting that would be, as hidden as possible, so I could go. So I use very much practical lights, and I try to avoid having tripods or flags. a flag to cut that wall down there is very overlit. No, I'll do a window in post production and bring it down. And I try as I rely very much in post production, I get the set as clean as possible, so I can go, maybe not 360, but 300 degrees around and give. There is this other funny episode that when we, after City of God, together we did The Constant Gardener. And we were working with Ray Fiennes, and Ray Fiennes came on set, rehearsed, and went to makeup, and when he came back, he walked into the set, and I was there with my Atom Minima 16 because I was going to shoot his dialogue in 15, and I had it hanging from me, and he walked into the set. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry, they told me you were ready." And I said, "Yes, we are." And he looked around and he didn't see any tripods or any flags or anything. The set was clean. I said, "No, come on, we're ready for you." And yes, we shot it that way, and they loved it because it gives them a lot of liberty, to move around and
Yeah.
But Constant Gardener's got quite a different look than City of God. So how did you talk with? How did you approach it? What was the discussions in prep? And
well, we wanted to show the different worlds that this guy was living, the corporate world, cooperative world that he lived in Britain, where he came from, and the crazy world that he had to adapt to in Africa, and the world that this lady showed him in Africa. So that was like the big difference, letting all the colors of Africa burst into the screen, and all the cleanness of the European gardener. So that was that. Yeah.
That's also reflected in the camera style as well, because the stuff in the UK was kind of seemed more considered than when you were in, Nairobi and the ghettos of Nairobi, which were very kind of, as you say, colorful and almost kind of almost too much. I mean, there was so much going on in the frame, but it's like that when you walk through those areas in Nairobi. It's incredible. Yeah.
And did you shoot some on 16 and some on 35?
Yes, I have had. When I was shooting a film after City of God, it was a rule for me, because I had learned that the 16, because I could handheld 10 minutes reel, gave me the autonomy to do more. So I would do the establishing shots, the wide shots in 35. Since I was going all to digital, I knew that for close-ups or for dialogue and so, 16 was perfect, no different. So yes, all the films that I did after City of God were mixing 16 or 35.
That must have confused the actors, though. Wait, that doesn't look like the same camera.
How far did you travel in Kenya? Was that the first time you've been to Kenya? And it must have been kind of quite extraordinary.
Yes.
I mean, I've been there a lot at that time. It must have been quite extraordinary exploring a country.
Yeah, but that coming from Brazil, we have a great African influence there. And I had done a documentary before, like, I don't know, like 10 years before. I had done a documentary about a French guy that fell in love with Brazil and lived in Brazil, and he did a thesis in La Sorbonne about what he called the flux and reflux. I don't know if the translation is okay, but like the culture of the liberated slaves going back to Africa and taking their. So we did this documentary, and I stayed there like for a month. It wasn't in Kenya. It was in Nigeria, that is more Brazilian slaves come from. But I had a nice approach to Africa.
Since The Constant Gardener is basically based on something true that's actually not very complementary to Kenya. Did you have any trouble with Kenya's government just showing this as a story?
You know that as cinematographers, we don't know very much about what's going on in the
Don't need
in
to.
the no, it doesn't get to us. But
Mhm.
not that I think so, because on the other side, the producer of this film was Simon Channing Williams, a beautiful guy. And in every place that we would go, he would sit a little bit beside Fernando during the, but then he would go around and see what was there missing, and he would do, like he would put water in slums, and he would be, so the film gave a lot to the people of Kenya.
There was it at the end of the film? There's John le Carre said that after he'd written it, he discovered that actually what he'd written about the testing of drugs in the third world, and especially in Africa, was far, far more extreme than what he'd written in Constant Gardener. It was actually even
Worse.
more horrific
Oh, I didn't know
than the
that.
actual.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. He was was shocked that
Yeah.
that the story he'd written was not nearly as
Wow, terrible.
yeah.
Yeah, but it is a good thing to have a movie that shows something like that.
Yes, yes. By the way, just an episode. We get prizes for our films, but I think the best prize that I got from that film was a friend of mine that went to a screening, and in that screening was Hillary Clinton, that was candidate to be president. And he heard that when she was walking out, they walk out together after the screening, she said to one of her guy that was, we have to look into that thing of the pharmaceuticals doing tests in Africa. We have to find out about that. So that, said it was worth it doing it. Yes, great.
Yeah. So you do believe in the power of films?
I do a lot.
Yes, Raj?
I was just kind of thinking, has it got any better in Kenya? I'm not sure. I mean,
Roger.
I don't know.
I don't know. I
You
spent
gotta
a long
try.
time there, and I knew a number of journalists there when Arap Moi was president, and the actual, Arap Moi started as a teacher in the countryside and ended up being one of the wealthiest people in the world. So tell me how that happens. Anyway, I'm really interested in, let's keep going with the films you've done with Fernando, because Blindness was kind of wonderful piece, actually, wasn't it? I mean, that was one of the films, your films with Fernando, that I think really, I mean, I love the novel, but I mean, the film is so powerful.
It was so interesting too, the way a lot of the story was told visually, not through dialogue.
Yeah.
And that's so refreshing to see. It also hits you harder.
Yeah.
when it's a
Again,
visual.
yes. And how much of the look of blindness did you do in post then?
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Roger, I when I give lectures, I say that I divide my way of filming is 40% pre-production, 40% post-production, and 20% on set. Because I try on set to be as minimal as possible, to, like, for example, I use zoom lenses much more than regular lenses, not to do zoom movements, but to reframe. Fernando says, let's do one tighter. Ready. I don't have to, change the lens. So the actor is there hot, and Fernando wants it tighter. I go tighter. And let me see that table a little bit more. Okay. So I choose things that will make the set as simple and as easy as possible, in order to let what I call the holy triangle, that is script, director, actors. That is the main thing on set. So I try to give to do my work in pre-production, preparing. Like, for example, this film that I'm doing now, we're starting to film on Wednesday, but I had already filmed with the rear camera and almost the light very similar in every location. So I'm familiar with
Oh,
every
really?
location. Yeah.
Wow.
I took a little crew, one as camera assistant, and the Venice that I'm using, and we went to every location. I shot a little bit just to share with Fernando how it's going to look, and Fernando tell me, oh, maybe here we can have more light. So yes, I in pre-production I do as much as possible, and then I leave a lot for post-production also.
Right.
And if you're going to do some sort of effect, if you're trying to do something that's a little bit more major, do you then do a test and bring it through the DI, or, to
Yeah.
see if it works
Yes,
right?
For
yes.
instance, in blindness, yeah,
Yes.
because there was not only the shift in contrast and bleaching out the frame, but there was also a shift in focus sometimes, which was really, really interesting. And I thought it really worked. I mean, often that becomes very kind of like tricksy, but it was quite integral to the whole feel of that film.
Yeah, blindness was funny because Fernando told me that we were going to do that film. I loved it, yeah. And he gave me the script. I stopped at the second page and I got my car. I went straight to the bookstore, bought the book, and read the book together with the script. Here it is. And on set, on my table, on my chair, I would have the script and the book. Because
Interesting.
Saramago, he was talking about vision, and that's our world. So
Yeah.
yes, so
Yeah, he's great at just creating a kind of mood. His novels are not actually that wordy, are they?
yeah,
Well, I mean,
But I
how,
think that you see that a lot in movies nowadays where they rely on dialogue and they forget that they could do the same thing visually and it would be stronger that way.
yeah. Can you tell us the approach to blindness then? Was that a set or was it a location, the main place where everybody's
The
confined,
hospital,
the
yeah.
hospital?
that was beautiful. That was a prison north of Toronto that the production had discovered that was empty, which for us South American having an empty prison is
Yeah, right.
we had all our prisons overfilled with people because we have so much crime going on, and so that. But anyway, they found this, and they took us like 5 or 6 months before shooting what they called a feasibility trip to see if we accepted that. And when I saw that, I said, "This is perfect. It's all we need." So, and there, for example, it was the beginning of cell phones, and I had one of those flip that you could, and I was click, 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 click everything, and I would go home and Photoshop and play around and say, oh, here we can burn out here we can. So I start getting familiar with the location from even when it hadn't been chosen. So then we went away, and like 5 months after we went there, and the production designer had changed a little bit, but the basic location was there. So yes, it was a location that we took advantage of.
But did you do any lighting? I mean, how much lighting did you do? Because some of it is quite, the lighting seems quite dramatic. And I was wondering, well, if you're waiting for a particular moment, the sun's coming through that window, that's pretty restricting. So,
yes.
yeah.
No, I did a lot of lighting because I had established this thing that Saramago had taught me, that the blindness was milky, was white. So it was overexposing. So even at night, I would have this harsh shafts of light that would burn out whoever was under the light, but I had black areas to show that it's night. But whatever was visible, in the frame I would include some of the darkness to let the audience know that this is night. But what I was framing, the actors, they were overexposed to get this milky view. So what I did, Roger, I prepared with my gaffer in Brazil before going to Canada. He did a huge front light that I used behind the camera to burn out. So everything was kind of overlit. So that's why you get that milky thing, because behind the camera I had this 4 meters by 4 meters fluorescent, you know, source of
Kubrick.
yes, source of light that would flat light the scene. But it was day, and it was night. I had these lamps that would overlight the whatever.
Right. So you were doing that effect partly in camera, and then you also worked on that in post as well. Yeah. But you weren't starting from scratch. You were building that into the exposure.
No, I had done it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it looked quite stunning, and it has a very particular look. How has your working relationship changed then with Fernando over the years? Because you've done so much with him.
Well, the Pope's toilet, I'm dying to talk about. But
yeah, we'll go back to the Pope's toilet, but you did the 2 popes with him as well.
Yes.
Again, a very, very different idea of the film, right?
Yes. Well, when we were going to do the 2 popes, when we do this meetings before starting to work, I said, Fernando, with these 2 actors, I cannot dream of putting a camera in another place that isn't a close-up, because I want to see 100% of each of them doing dialogue. So we shot it kind of conventional, because I didn't want to waste just doing incredible framing when I had, Anthony Hopkins giving me what he is. I wanted to see him frontal as much as possible. So yeah, every film brings a different, and these, long meetings that we do before we look at references. Oh, this works, and I do some tests and I show it to him. So there is an evolution of. So when we get on set, as I said, I'm going to.
You don't talk. You don't talk to each other.
Yeah, as we were saying, after we finish this, I'm going to eat something and I'm going to sit at the computer and edit the test that I did at the locations to share to Fernando in a big screen, because that is something that I can't leave aside. We come from cinema, and our thing is that although this film we're doing is for Netflix and 9% of the people are going to see it, but I'm doing a film, and a film is to see in a screen. So for the last film that I did, for example, I asked the production, it was in Kenya, and we were staying in a resort, and I asked the production to get me a projector, and in one of the rooms of the hotel, put up a screening room, because I would share with the director. I wanted him to see in the big screen.
And when you're shooting, do you time dailies, or are they like one light, or are you trying to show him what your plan is early?
Since I have done tests and I have a little look for every location or for every situation, I share this with the DIT, and the DIT tries to approach it very much.
So you're doing it on set?
Yeah.
Okay.
As much as possible. But anyway, the editing will change. So maybe something that you did normal in the editing, it comes after a very dramatic thing, and you want to do it more dramatic. So the final color will be the last word. Yes.
Yeah, but we've certainly had experiences when something wasn't printed quite right, and we haven't reprinted it, and then they've lived with it for, even though you talk about it and they say, oh, no problem, but then they live with it for 7 or 8 months and they start to like it that way.
Yeah.
And then it changes.
Yes. No, I have had cases when things have happened like that, and I had told the editor, please, with the simple tools that you have there on your editing, just make it darker, because I don't want you to get accustomed to such a bright scene, because that was set, that was thought to be done darker. So see it darker. Yeah, I think it's very important, because you're absolutely right. living 6 months with that image, then when you go back, oh, what's that?
It looks wrong if you
Exactly,
do it right.
exactly.
Okay, so we should talk about the Pope's toilet, but especially because we were talking about the two popes, and the look of the Pope's toilet is very interesting, which you co-directed, but the look's very interesting because it doesn't seem stretched. It seems almost like a documentary, but a documentary that's very controlled. It's not like you're kind of struggling to follow the action. I mean, there's some so the story is about this guy that's smuggling just food across the Uruguay-Brazil border, and he's doing it on a bike, and there's a whole group of them, and you do some wonderful tracking shots with these cyclists going across this sort of rough terrain and on these dirt roads. It's really quite brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's all basically about it's set in a true story, right? Where the Pope's visiting this small town
Yes.
in South America, and everybody's building up to the visit, and it kind of tell us, where did this come from? And I mean, I find it, we both found it very wonderful, funny, but also quite affecting.
Yeah.
Quite sad.
Yeah.
Well,
Where did it come from?
This is absolute true. My co-director, Enrique Fernandez, he is from that city, and he wasn't there, but his family told him that and it was really, the Pope visited that town, and it was really a revolution because this is reality in our third world. People, if they see a chance to make a little bit of money so they thought, the Pope is coming. We're going to get hundreds of tourists from Brazil coming. They're going to have to eat. And so people got debts from the government and from banks in order to buy sausages or to buy things and it was a shame that 1/3 of the people that they imagined came, obviously because the dream was too high. So, they had all this leftover of food and stuff like that, and they lost. So it's a funny but sad story that, typical of South America.
Was there actually a guy that built a toilet? Which is a pretty smart thing to do.
I don't know. I think that here for Enrique, the co-director and writer, he invented this thing because he said, well, if all these Brazilians are going to eat, they're going to need to use the toilet.
Yeah. Well, the sad thing was the Pope stayed for such a short speech.
Yeah.
It was like, "Hi, I hope you're well," and then disappeared.
Yes.
So nobody spent enough time there to want to go to the
And also
toilet.
for a lot of people, it was the Pope betraying them. Because they had put so much out.
Yeah. Did you work in a different way when you were directing it yourself? Presumably, you shot it yourself.
How did you come to direct it too?
Enrique, he had written this story, but he loved cinema. As I said, Uruguay has a tradition of loving cinema, but he hadn't filmed ever. And they hired me, they called me from Brazil because I had experience, and if I could help them and co-directing. And I said, yeah, of course. I mean, he knows the story and I know how to tell him. So, for example, one thing that Uruguay had no experience with cinema, so actors had no experience. So I said, one thing that works in Brazil is these actor coach. So let me bring a Brazilian actor coach, and production accepted. So I brought the guy that had been actor coach in City of God, and he went to Uruguay to prepare the actors. And the other thing that I made it a point, I said, one thing that we may have to make sure is that this is edited not by a Uruguayan editor, but by a foreign editor that knows, because when you're inside, you can be very local, and then people from outside don't understand you because you don't know. So I invited this Brazilian editor that I'd been working with, and they accepted perfectly, and it was great because he told the story in order that foreigners would understand it. Because now you can, you start speaking your own language and nobody understands you. So those were 3 points that I insisted that I could work in the rewriting of the script in order to make it more visual, that I could bring this actor's coach, and that I could edit in Brazil. And the production and Enrique accepted it perfectly, and that worked very beautifully. And we did it was 90% in 16 millimeter, and because of a small budget, and then I had a 35 millimeter camera almost lent to me for 3 days, so I could do like big establishing shots of the bicycles, but the rest was kind of handheld 16, riding on motorbikes, following the bicycles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's quite
Wow.
brilliant. I mean, recommend it. It's really fun, actually.
Yeah.
It's great. Why, Ben, you've directed a number of documentaries, but is that the only fiction film you've directed?
No, I was invited. Uruguay has this famous liberator, José Artigas, that is in every, if you go to the Uruguayan embassy there where you are, you'll see a picture of Artigas. That is our liberator. That, because Uruguay is a very small country between these two huge countries, Argentina and Brazil. So it was very difficult to liberate ourselves from whoever wanted. So this guy was a very social guy, credible guy. So he's our liberator. So when Napoleon invaded France, invaded Portugal, and so Europe stopped. So in Spain, so they kind of left the South American colonies a little bit free. So they took advantage to liberate themselves. So it was in the 2011, more or less, that all the South American countries were in their liberation years. So Spanish television produced a series of like 6 or 7 films, feature films, fiction films, called Los Libertadores. And they told the story of San Martin in Argentina, of Tupac Amaru in Peru, and Artigas in Uruguay. And the Spanish producer had seen in Europe the Pope story, and he invited me to direct it, so I directed. And it was an honor for me to direct a story about our liberator.
Yeah.
Has the industry kind of changed in Uruguay? I mean, is there?
Yes, it had changed. And one thing that helped it change very much was the pandemic, because Uruguay was kind of open to the pandemic. So many films came to be filmed in Uruguay because it was an open location where there was no so much restriction about the pandemic, and people were all vaccinated, and so lots of films. So yes, it grew. And then the other thing that helped is the fact that cinema has become cheaper because of digital. You have. I'm using iPhones for the films that I'm doing.
Really?
Yeah. I mix iPhones with.
Wow.
I actually have a Uruguayan film that's on the screens now that was 90% shot in iPhone. For the big films like this one I'm doing is small. I use it because there's a kind of prejudice. But this new iPhone, the 17 Pro Max, I see the big screen, Roger, and it's amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that has democratized the producing of films. So you can have poor people telling their stories with an iPhone and putting in YouTube, and maybe having in YouTube more audience than they would than a Hollywood film can have maybe.
Yeah.
So
when is that what happens when you're making your documentaries? I mean, you made a documentary about sorry, I'm looking here, Fernando Haddad versus Bolsonaro.
Yes.
And a documentary about Dilma Rousseff as well.
Yes.
I mean, tell us about those. How do you go about those, and where are they seen? How do you get them seen?
Well, the documentary about Dilma I was invited by a Brazilian director, a woman that I respect very much. It was great that a woman was going to direct a film about Dilma. And it was great because Dilma was going to be impeached, and she got the permission for us to be living with Dilma while she was living this process of being impeached.
Oh, wow.
And it was incredible. And the funny thing is, we were there in the palace all day, but Dilma was in closed meetings for some time. So I had nothing to do. So I discovered that there were these ladies taking care of the garden, and it was such a contrast of what was going on because it showed how alienated the Brazilians are. They didn't know, it didn't change their life if their president was impeached or no, because they're poor and they're going to keep poor. So I did a documentary called Jardineras, that means garden ladies, about two of them that I'm very happy about it. I showed it around, and it's done pretty well. It's not a feature film. It's 40 minutes, but it tells the story of these ladies that while Vilma is being impeached there, they are cleaning the garden, and in lunchtime they're playing chess and relaxing, and the country is going to hell, but to them it's the same. So I was doing the film on Dilma. I was doing Jardineras, and when I finished that, I went to São Paulo and started following Haddad because I thought he was a very interesting character. I didn't know he was like the only left-wing progressive governor in place, because all the rest of the continent was controlled by the right wing. So as this was the last resistance of progressive world, I thought I want to follow this guy. So I followed him. I didn't know where he was going. He was the mayor of São Paulo. But then it happened that Lula went in prison, and he was a candidate to president. So I said, "Oh, great!" So I filmed him for 4 years. I just keep filming him So and when the election came, we decided to stop and edit. But I think I'm going to re-edit it again because he's going to be candidate to president, and he is going to be president this time.
Or after Lula's term.
Yes, because he's Lula's economy minister, and he's done incredible things. He brought inflation in Brazil that was always 12, 15%. He brought it to 3%. Unemployment that was always like 20%. He brought it to 5%. So he's done a great job. Great. He's an amazing guy.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting. It's really okay. So I want to ask you about the contrast about doing those kind of documentaries and being involved in Brazil and Uruguayan politics in a way, and then working on something like American Made with Tom Cruise. Is that not? Do you find that really kind of wow cultural sort of?
Yes,
shift?
because he was showing the drug dealers in Colombia, and that was interesting for me. I mean, to show to the world that the CIA is responsible for the drugs also. I said, this is a point that has to be made. I like doing that film. And filming in Colombia was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Was it very different though, working with Doug Liman, American director?
Were there multi-cameras?
No. Just one camera.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. In the picture that I sent you, there is a kind of funny one of me filming Tom Cruise pilot, because Tom Cruise is so independent. He wanted to pilot himself. He said, no.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me film him pilot. So I have this little black magic, and I would sit by his side and stand up and film him piloting, really, no blue screen, no studio. It was me with a black magic. And I was very happy that afterwards I saw it on a big screen, the IMAX, and my little black magic close-up was perfect.
Yeah. It's great that. I love that. But you black magic and an iPhone, we're fine, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's true though, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, there's a little bit of snobbery about
Yeah.
certain cameras.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Doug Lyman described the film as a fun lie based on a true story.
Yes, right.
So did you, while you were doing the film, deal with, oh, is that true? Is that not? Or did you just know ahead of time you were going to make a fun lie?
To me, cinema, it's the liberty of the creator. So, documentaries, you have to kind of be real. But in fiction, you have the liberty of, create. So go ahead and create whatever. Like, for example, when I did Artigas, this Liberator, I said, okay, I'm doing a history film, but I have the liberty of creating. This was written by the historians. But here in the middle, there are parts that we don't know. So let me invent them. This is art. So let's go art. So, for example, I did a scene that shocked very many people that I made Artigas making love to an Indian woman that was really happy, really happy because the Spanish would go and have sex with the Indian. And in this case, I made the Indian lady be on top of Artigas. She was commanding the sex. And that was that was a political statement of mine. I said,
yeah, I bet. But yeah, you never know, do you?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny. But I mean, sometimes the reality's so much more weird than the films people make.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the Pope's toilet, I mean, really, that is very funny. And it's real that all these people sadly invested all this money on all this food and it all went to waste.
You're right, yeah.
I mean, it's just sad reality.
Yeah. And that is South America, Roger. That is our reality. People are very poor and they can, and that's how drug dealing is. It is so growing because it's a possibility for these kids that have no chance of being rich. The drug dealers show them a way to be it. So, that's understandable. So the way of resolving our drug thing in South America is by redistribution, by, bringing people up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then they will have to choose. Then they have tools to choose. I don't need to be a drug dealer because I have a title, I have studied, I can work, and I don't need to.
Right.
It's very sad what we're living in South America with the drug cartels is terrible. Very, very sad.
Yes. Well, given what's happening, I don't want to get into that.
Can I tell you something?
You can tell us anything.
This is lovely. I'm loving this.
So really? This is great.
Roger, I have always admired so much your work that suddenly I'm in Sunday morning chatting with Roger Deakins. Like, oh my
God. Well, it's good. It's making our day as well. Yeah. Cesar, really, it's fantastic, and you must be having fun. You're working with Mitch Lillian and some crew members we know.
Yes.
Worked with for many years. So I think you're going to have a really good time.
I am already having. They are amazing.
Yeah, he's so much the best, aren't they? Nice. Yeah.
The only thing is they are so big. The structure. I don't know how to use so many tools.
It's crazy. No, when I first came over to America to work on it, it was the second time because I did Sid and Nancy, but that was really a British film shooting in America. But when I did a film down in the South in Alabama, actually, based in Montgomery, and the first day I walked on set and all these trucks, I mean, like you're walking for about, I don't know, 10 minutes between where you park your car and you get to the set and you go past all these grip and electric trucks and then all the artist caravans and the makeup. And time you get to set and you think, how am I going to use any of my grip equipment and everything? And anyway, it's too far from the set to order it. Anyway, it is kind of crazy, isn't it? But I guess it's historical kind of, yeah. I mean, the whole world's changed so much because of digital.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you've been right at the forefront of shooting and then doing so much in post. I'm not sure I know that many people that do what you do, but it's becoming more and more the way of doing it, and why not?
Yeah,
And you know, and the standards of some of the television work now is so high, and they're not using a lot of light. They're really controlling it like you are in post. It's pretty remarkable what can be done.
Well, Roger, I celebrated. I remember getting drunk celebrating when Kodak put out the 500 ASA film.
Yeah,
And now,
yeah,
and now I'm
really.
shooting with 3200.
Yeah, no, it's
is
crazy,
amazing.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we said that to somebody the other day. We were talking on the podcast. I mean, like, when I started, I mean, you had 100 ASA. That had only recently come in. But, and your lenses, really, you couldn't shoot wider than 3.2, not get a really sharp image. So you had to light. You were forced to light even a set or location. That you might only be doing a couple of shots in, but you had to light it.
Yeah.
So it's a different world now,
Completely. Amazing.
But you say, I mean, you think it's democratized filmmaking in some way. The only thing I feel is a pity is it might have done, but there's not a lot of people like you using the technology to actually make films that maybe will make a difference.
Well, when they asked me in lectures about this, I said, well, to buy a pencil is very cheap, but not everybody becomes William Shakespeare.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And you will. Anybody can write, but we have humanity has this way of, and we discover who is good and who is not. So
Yeah.
we have our filter, then we end up finding what's worth it and what not.
It's interesting. There's so many great directors coming out of South America. We just talked to
Kleber Danza Filho.
the other day, whose film The Secret Agent is just coming out.
Yes.
This works out of Recife, right?
Yes.
And then we've talked to José Campanella and
Is that Brazil? Or
Argentina. Yeah. I mean, there's so many really, really interesting directors. And do you think that's because they've got something they have to say because of the society of in many countries in South America?
Yeah.
It's rather like Italy after the war. You got the whole sort of neo-realist movement that came out of the sort of political
situation. You have the story
there.
here. You have to put it out.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great talking to you.
I loved it. I had loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to sponsor the Team Deakins podcast, let us know at pod@teamdeakins.com. Thanks for listening. If you want more information and further discussion, check out the forums at www.rogerdeakins.com. Becoming a member is free, and you can ask follow-up questions there. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more new questions and topics. Also, check us out on Instagram at team.deakins. See you next time.